again, the work that we've done, or I've done specifically, is help advocate for women, because I didn't have anyone there to help me. I didn't know how to say what I was going through. And it was a chance meeting with a friend who lives around the corner from here as I left the GP, and I said, I'm ready to be admitted, I need help. And she had been to the adult facility and she helped me. She sat me down on the floor, we called the psychiatrist, we booked all the appointments, and it was her intervention and paying it forward because of what Emma did. Emma saved my life in that one moment by being there, but also I'm paying it forward because no one should ever have to go to a GP and not feel like they're being hurt.
Hi, I'm Nunn, and this is the mess we're in, i.e. life. Because life is, in fact, one big mess that we are all trying to make sense of and navigate our way through. The universe itself is a vast expanse of unorganised chaos. Stars are exploding all over the place, which makes me feel a sense of ease. I want to enable conversations that allow us to all embrace our mess at every level, or at least feel open and comfortable talking about it. I hope you enjoy our ramblings. Just going to be laughing. Hi, and welcome to the Mess We Are In podcast. And today it's a real privilege because I have a guest here in person with me. Today on the podcast, I've got my incredible friend, Milli Richards. Milli is the co-founder of Motherly Love, which is a social enterprise that helps women and birthing people through pregnancy and beyond with mental health and emotional well-being support. It's an incredible, wonderful community that you have founded. I myself have been, Milli and I actually met when I was struggling through early motherhood, and Motherly Love was an in-person group function at the time, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You were running groups in Walthamstow, supporting local mums who might have found those early moments of motherhood challenging. And I think I picked up a flyer and thought, I really need this sort of support at this point in time. And I didn't take action at that very first juncture, but later on was, found myself, as I said, finding things quite difficult, and wasn't sure where to turn. And Milli's group, the Motherly Love group, was just an incredible resource to me. And I reached out to you directly, and the rest is history.
And here we are.
Here we are. Can you tell me a bit more about Motherly Love and the journey to how you founded it, and exactly what it is and what it encompasses now?
Yeah, of course. So I have two kids. They are now 9 and 7, which feels really scary and overwhelming to have such old children. But I have always struggled with my mental health. I can remember being 16 and feeling depressed and having intrusive thoughts, but I didn't know that's what they were. And I spent all of my life masking it. And I had really good coping mechanisms in place, like really, really good. And I was successful in my job, and I had great friendships and relationships, and I didn't fit what I perceived to be the mold of mental illness. I wasn't struggling to get out of bed. I wasn't on my own, all of the things that you assume is mental illness. I was the complete polar opposite.
Yeah. Or actually, I think sometimes you're just not educated on mental illness. At that point in my life, when I think about it, and on the podcast, I've been referring to it a lot as the mess of the mind, that confused stuff that's going on in your head that you're not completely sure how to explain, and all of the overwhelming feelings that you might be encountering and thoughts that are I'm very grateful that at least we exist in a society now where there is so much education around mental health and support for our mental health. But I didn't feel educated in it. I wasn't sure if I ever referred to my mental health at like 16,
Never.
etc. No. So yeah, carry on. So
Never.
from that, no.
Do you know as well, like I look back to my career and I worked in PR and my clients, I worked on the Time to Change campaign. So every year that was one of my clients.
Wow.
And so we talked about mental health. I did a campaign in university to change the way mental health was talked about because we lost a friend to suicide. You know, we made films about who to ask for help. I made a website.
Really?
So I've done so much throughout my life within mental health.
Yeah.
And yet never was able to identify actually how much I struggled. Within myself. Like anxiety has always been inside of me. Social anxiety is really intense for me. I've had disordered eating. Now I realize I have OCD, you know, and the fact that I spent all this time working and doing on these projects, that's not me. It's like I had a full wall that just went up, and I refused to ever open that door and admit that I could ever be part of that world. But I wanted to campaign to change and work on things.
That's underlying psychologically, though. That's your subconscious at work as well, going,
isn't it?
This is me. However, I can't yet point it back to myself and like make it reality. Okay. And when did that change, or what was the journey?
So we had Ada 2016. I had left my job because I was feeling really down, but as many times as I saw the doctor, kind of they put it down to the situation I was in. I worked for a very toxic company. I'd been trying to get pregnant for a long time. We were going through a difficult situation with in our personal life. So the doctor just kept saying, this is circumstantial. Right. Like, quit your job.
Yeah,
it will be fine.
The mess will be resolved.
The mess will
change your environment.
Absolutely.
Is that true? It's like the internal and the external. Yes, you need to work with both, right?
Yeah. And looking back, I wish I had dealt with more of what was going on internally. And I quit my job. I got pregnant 2 months later. So everything that I wanted to happen happened. And I did start to feel better. But, I can remember that back then I was pregnant and falling asleep on the sofa at 2:00 in the afternoon, and Mark coming home at 7 and just waking up. And I put it all down to pregnancy. And now I look back and that's when I think, gosh, I was really depressed. I didn't leave the house. I didn't really do much. But again, I just didn't have the words to articulate how I was feeling. And I have everything that anyone should want on paper. A really supportive partner. I had a house, didn't want for anything. I was pregnant. How do you articulate then? But hang on, I have all of these things. And yet inside, I just don't feel happy. Yeah. Because it feels really ungrateful when life has given you all of those amazing things. It feels really.
Yeah. You just get torn with what your feelings are comparatively with what you are communicated to that you should be feeling.
It was a head fuck, like a total mind fuck. So I just plowed on and carried on, and I had Ada, and I felt so much better once I gave birth to her. I've always wanted to be a mum. It was always in my path that's what I wanted, and it had taken us a while to get pregnant. So she I always describe her as being like the light, and she pulled me back out of it. And so I did feel happy. I know I was very overwhelmed. I used to say to my partner, and to my sister was living with us, and I used to be like, I'm just really overwhelmed, just back off everybody. I can't cope. But again, putting it down to being a new mum.
Yeah.
Now I know I'm not ever going to live with those kind of I don't ever need to be that way. Never need to feel that overwhelmed by the mess and everything else that's going on around me.
Yeah.
But with her, I started to have intrusive thoughts that I was going to harm her when she was about 6 months old. And they were horrific thoughts, and something I just felt so ashamed. So rather than hurt her, I hurt myself through self-harm, through alcohol. And again, I just lived inside myself. We never talked to anyone about it. And I just waited for one day that it would just stop. And it did. It was so strange. It was one day I just woke up and I never had those thoughts again.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And did you?
I did no therapy. I did nothing.
Oh my God. No medication,
nothing.
no.
Didn't talk to anyone. I just waited and waited. And I wondered if
How did you deal with that so much? Because that is a lot of psychological mess taking place in your mind, you know? Like, thank you for sharing that, because that's incredibly, like, I can't, you know, I have had my own versions of very intrusive thoughts, like that were associated with my child, etc. But that's, you know, that's another level, and to then take it out on yourself and to harm and affect yourself, it's unbelievable that you did manage to, that it stopped one day.
I wondered when I can't piece it now, but I do think I wondered if it was when I found out I was pregnant with Winnie.
Yeah.
Something just changed.
Yeah.
I don't know where those thoughts went, but they just stopped.
That's amazing though. Yeah.
Until
Okay.
until the crisis.
The next part.
Until the crisis happened. You know, when I was pregnant with Winnie, I'd already gone back on the pill, but I was already pregnant. So I'd got pregnant.
Yeah.
My second cycle after finishing breastfeeding, got pregnant, then went to get on the pill. So that was, but I didn't know I was pregnant, obviously.
Really?
So
You didn't know you were pregnant at that
I didn't
point?
know I was pregnant.
Okay.
I know the day I got pregnant, I can remember it. But I had got pregnant. I think I got to the nurse on the Wednesday, started on the pill, started taking the pill. A few weeks later, I was like, it's not right with my body.
Ooh, that's so, I mean, in bodily signals telling you, thank God. Yeah.
Realised everything that I normally like the smell of made me feel sick. And yeah, I was pregnant with twins. But with her, I started to have the thoughts for me then were about, I didn't want to be pregnant. The fact I'd gone on the pill meant I intentionally did not want to be pregnant again. But I was, and then you have all of this again, like the mess in my head. Shit, I don't want to have this baby. Hang on, how can I say that when all my friends around me are struggling to have a baby?
Yeah.
Why do I not want this? And again, I just lived with it all inside of me. You can't live for years withholding thoughts like that, messy thoughts, thoughts about harming a child, thoughts about harming yourself, thoughts about not wanting a baby for one day, not all just to start bubbling over.
Yeah, of course, that's it. Yeah,
it's not.
Well, it isn't. You can't contain that. That's right. And you know, you are about to disclose the rest of the story. But yeah, there's a breaking point for the mind for sure, where you can't just live and contain that.
No. And it's so funny now as I'm talking and thinking about this and this topic of mess, because I remember vividly now, and I never thought of this before until this moment, of sitting there and thinking, I've got myself in this mess. And I really...
And then what, you turned it all back on yourself to like, oh my goodness.
I remember thinking, I've got myself pregnant. I can't tell people that I'm scared, because people will just say to me, well, you chose this. This is the mess you're in. Deal with it. And that was a narrative.
But that's that in itself is an intrusive thought, you know, and shaming yourself and blaming yourself. That's complementary with that cycle of intrusive dark thinking. Wow. Yeah. Isn't it? And it's so awful that we can shame and literally like chastise ourselves. Is that a word? Castrate. I was going to say castrate, chastise ourselves, or like give ourselves such a horrifically awful time by putting ourselves in like a position of mess and this association of like negative, I've done this to myself, like how that's
I've put us in this situation, like, and also it was like you're kind of, it played into like me being foolish and like, you know, not thinking with my actions. And so it did feel like I was in this mess and I couldn't say to anybody else all of these thoughts because, and when, you know.
Were you telling your partner?
No.
Oh man.
Nobody. Nobody. I didn't say it to anybody. And then I had the perfect birth. I got to give birth at home, which is something I always wanted to do. So, you know, on paper, like the most amazing experience. And my best friend was there. She's a midwife and she supported me, and Mark was incredible. But as soon as I gave birth, the first thoughts were, fuck, what is this? What mess am I in? What am I doing? And all that just came over me was just total fear. Absolute fear of like, I don't want to have this baby. I can't look at my baby. I don't want to be in the same room as them. I remember Mark and Liz going downstairs to put the pool away and to get me something to eat. And I just was like shaking in the bed, just thinking, they can't, why am I on my own? I can't be on my own. And I felt so frightened. And from that moment, it was as if, I kind of like was just like a can, like I'd been, or fizzy bottle, you know, for so long. I had been building up and bubbling up and bubbling up and bubbling up. And like, pop, out comes the baby, and so does everything else. And within weeks, I was not able to leave my bed. I was not leaving the house. I couldn't be left alone with the children. And it just, it got worse and it got worse. And it was the most frightening and probably the biggest mess I've ever been in. You know?
Yeah.
And I apologize for laughing, or like if I seem like I'm like lighthearted about it, but
I don't think you need to apologize.
But it's 7 years later, and like I can't hold. It's still a really traumatic time for me, but I've since spent so long processing what I've been through. That actually I'm okay. I'm okay.
And now, if anything, it's so brilliant, and I'm really glad that we can share like how far you have come since that time, and the recovery from that period of mess is visible. And like, thank God you can be lighthearted about it, because the whole premise of this podcast and this discussion anyway is to try and lighten and expose the fact that we are constantly as humans finding ourselves in mess that sometimes we don't talk about openly, that can be like literally extremely impacting you, and yet there is not the ability to like disclose it to everybody. And we need to be able to not judge and not feel ashamed, and be able to talk in a more, hopefully like a slightly lighter, uplifting way around this subject and this topic, so that people can understand that, you know, you're going to feel these messy times and you can come through them and you can talk about them. And actually there's a massive need to, and your work now that you do in the peer support space and in supporting others that might be going through any sort of similar experience or having any sort of messy thoughts, especially when it comes to birth, pregnancy and beyond, is incredible. It's why we're here, and thank you for talking about it, because it's incredible.
And I know, you know, when I look back now, that there were so many opportunities for me to speak about this stuff. But I think, you know, 9-10 years ago, well, from being 16, like until I had the kids, like we weren't as open.
No.
Especially like, there just wasn't the discussion that that we're having now.
Totally.
And so if I lived it all again now, it would never have got to that point.
No.
I never would have been as unwell as I was, because I would have felt able to talk about it. And funny, you know, like I was out last night and a girl sat down next to me and said, God, I'm feeling really anxious. We were out at someone's drinks. We only knew one person each. We didn't know anybody. She sat down and said, I feel really anxious. I was like, me too. I feel really, really socially awkward. I don't know anybody. And I said, should we just sit here together in silence until we feel ready to talk? And we just sat there.
Amazing.
And we just totally normalized it. Like, it doesn't make us any... Like, there's still amazing people who just for a moment needed to be like, whoa, that's too much.
I know. I just find sometimes in social spheres now, especially like going through difficult periods with like mental instability, that I'm so much more sensitive to big social environments where there's lots of conversations happening, lots of noise, lots of like different layers and levels of stimulation. it's so much to contend with. And there's this sense of like it not being okay to just excuse yourself from it for a minute and just go, whoa, I need a little time out here. I need a mind break. I need a brain break, actually.
Yeah.
Because how are we meant to deal with all this noise?
And it's so interesting now looking back for my life and wondering, like, I've always been a smoker. Like, I drop it and I take it back up again. And I look back now and I just think that's the reason I've always smoked, because I always have an excuse to go outside. I've always had a way of being like, I'm just going to take a break, because I don't know how to naturally say to people, oh, I feel really overstimulated right now and I feel really anxious.
Why can't we just say that? We need to say, like, I'm feeling overstimulated.
It would be much healthier for my body if I wasn't using cigarettes or vapes. But we're not at that point, right? We're not there yet.
Hopefully we can be. Hopefully it can become normalised. So that was essentially the biggest mess you ever found yourself in, unfortunately, when you had given birth to your second daughter. You described yourself afterwards then, being literally kind of paralysed post giving birth, and not necessarily knowing where to go to. So what was the next steps to getting yourself out of that mess and that mind mess? Like, what can you also recommend, and what sorts of supports did you seek?
I went to the GP and I was turned away by the GP. And and I was told that I didn't meet the criteria for help. But again, I didn't know how to describe how bad things had got. And there was so much shame around it and taboo, and I just didn't have the language. And I think there is this still, and I hear it from the women that we work with all the time, there is still this belief that a child will be taken away from a mum if a mum is struggling with mental illness. And that's like the least thing that would ever happen, because actually there are mother and baby units set up specifically so that if a mum is having a mental health crisis, they can be admitted into a hospital and get the care that they need and be kept with their child. And had I known that at that point, I would have been more honest with what I was experiencing, and I would have accepted the help to be admitted. Because actually, as a direct result of that GP, the way they responded to me, I ended up going to an adult facility, but I could only go as a day patient because it wasn't specific to having a baby. None of the treatment was specifically around being a new mum. I had she was 8 weeks old, maybe 12 weeks by the time I actually started the treatment. So nothing was geared up to my circumstance. And it actually made my bond with her worse, because in order to attend every session, someone had to come with me so that they could walk her around the park.
Oh, really?
It was logistically a nightmare. People were taking time off work. My parents were having to come to London to be able to do it, because a session was an hour and a half. So I needed someone to be there for 2 hours, plus the travel time either side.
That sounds messy.
It's really messy. And I felt a burden. Like, I felt like I was a burden, and I didn't want to be here anymore because I was such a burden to everybody else. So I was then being even more of a burden by asking people to do all of that. Or add in the fact I had to get taxis because I basically thought I couldn't drive my car, and if I drove, I was going to kill somebody. A mess. Like, everything about that situation was a mess. But as a result of being in there, I blamed a lot of it onto Winnie. And so our bond became our issues with bonding were amplified on a level that never, ever, ever needed to happen. And it's situations like that for me, which is why I do what I do now, because I just feel so angry that we were ever left in that situation.
Of course.
It never needed to be that way. If someone had given me space to talk about how bad things were, how messy things were, how messy I felt my mind was, then I maybe would have had the opportunity to go into that mother and baby unit, and our story would have been different. But I also don't ever want it to be different, because it's made me the person I am now.
Of course.
It's enabled me to do this incredible work. Opportunities like this would never have come around. Exactly. Like the connections I've made, which sounds wild to think that having a mental health crisis can actually make you.
Yeah.
But I have literally
it's
made some of
incredible.
my most incredible friendships through what I've been through.
Yeah. And you are passing on the knowledge to others and may be able to help them in the future. And that's what is so meaningful to me. It's like having that purpose for the future. If you can leave, that's why I always feel like if you can leave an impression on one person, if one person can hear this story and feel inspired and be like, actually, I need to go and talk to someone, and I need to not be fearful that my baby or child is going to be taken away from me because I'm experiencing this mess in my head. If one person hears that and feels inclined then to make a move to help themselves, then that's it. We've got that you're doing it for a reason, and it happened for a reason.
Yeah,
sister.
Absolutely. It is my purpose. That is. Yeah.
So it's so good to know and to specify now that care does exist and is available, that you can have mother and baby assistance if you are feeling in a mental health crisis, that you can be, talk to, let us know a bit more. What's the access and availability?
I mean, it's very poor. All NHS services, everything is really stretched, but they do exist. So for women who are experiencing a severe mental health crisis, there are mother and baby units available. So, going to your GP, articulating how bad things are. If you're having thoughts of harming yourself, if you're having thoughts of harming your baby, which are thoughts, they're not a reality. I'm someone who's lived through it twice now, both times. I couldn't be left alone with my children because I felt so anxious that the thought I was having I was going to hurt them would become a reality. People all had to be with me for months. But that was a thought. It was never, I never would have acted on it. But if you're having thoughts of harming yourself or others, then immediately seek help. Go to A&E and tell them, that's your first port of call. We all know how hard it is to get a GP appointment. They have mental health nurses trained in A&E departments. So go into one and say, I need help. Immediately. And the path to accessing those services is tricky. It really is tricky. And a lot of the work that we've done, or I've done specifically, is help advocate for women, because I didn't have anyone there to help me. And I didn't know how to say what I was going through. And it was a chance meeting with a friend who lives around the corner from here as I left the GP, and I said, I'm ready to be admitted. I need help. And she had been to the adult facility and she helped me. She sat me down on the floor. We called the psychiatrist. We booked all the appointments. And it was her intervention. So it kind of there's so many aspects to what I do. I'm paying it forward because of what Emma did. Emma saved my life in that one moment by being there. But also I'm paying it forward because no one should ever have to go to a GP and not feel like they're being heard.
Completely. And have to deal with it on their own. And what you've done is you have built an amazing community that's just grown and changed and developed, and it's evolving now into something that hopefully will be available even wider. So that women never feel like they have to face this stuff on their own. Great, amazing, incredible. You are doing an incredible job. Despite everything that you have discussed and been so openly sharing with us, you are, in terms of thought and organizing, and I would consider you one of the most incredibly organized, rational, developed mental planners that I know. We need to even discuss how, Milli, you when it comes to thinking ahead, planning, to-do lists, organizing your home, organizing your life, I'm completely in awe of you, to be fair. Do you feel like you are, let's just say, you're not a messy person, are you, really? In terms of physical and just general overview of your approach to life. But has that always been the way? What's your, okay.
I grew up in a very organized house.
Okay.
You weren't allowed to be messy.
No. You weren't allowed to have cupboards like mine. We had a little delve into my new kitchen cupboard earlier, and the exposure of the mess that is currently residing in there. You weren't allowed cupboards like that in your house. No. It looks lovely from the outside, but great. Inside it's currently a mess.
But I think most people's cupboards look like that. I think
Not yours.
I'm the minority.
Not yours.
I'm a minority, and I lived in a house that was really strict in terms of, shoes had to be in a certain place. Your blazer from school had to be hung up as soon as you walked through the door. Actually, love my parents, but it was too much.
Okay. What do your parents do for jobs out of interest, or what did they do then?
My dad worked in fast food in a corporate job.
Okay.
And my mum was at home with us because he lived in London and we lived up north.
Yeah.
I'm
just wondering if there's any psychology behind it. Because
they didn't meet. They both went to catering college and then they worked in fast food restaurants and as managers, and that's kind of where his career path went. But when you work in food, everything has to be meticulous. You can't. There is no
ingredients and portions.
Well, more the cleanliness.
Oh, cleanliness.
The more the cleanliness, and everything has to be done a certain way because otherwise you're fucked, right?
Yeah.
The restaurant gets shut down, and what do you do?
Germs.
Exactly.
No, you cannot have that.
So
we've seen those horrible programs about what happens in a restaurant if you're not
KFC, Leytonstone, mice, shut down. McDonald's, Leytonstone, mice, another shut down. Yeah, it happened. Well, I think this is Leytonstone. But they obviously, that had become massively ingrained in them. So, but also they just like order. They like not having things out on the side. And I have become that person.
Yeah. There's science though to back it. I'm reading or listening to Dr. Tara Swartz, The Source, which is all about, was previously a psychiatrist, is trained in neuroscience and talks about, she blends neuroscience with spiritual thinking, but she mentions in the book how it is scientifically proven that if it impacts our brains in a positive manner to have physical spaces that are organized and not in disarray, and that makes complete sense.
And when I was really unwell, my lovely cleaner Alex, who was she became part of our family and looked after the kids when I was poorly. She was just literally became, she was our family member. She came around one day and found me on the floor crying. And I said, I just can't cope with all the mess, because if there was stuff out to me, it just triggered my brain. It was I'm overwhelmed. I can't cope with this. So she was what we're going to do is I'm going to split my time and I'm coming twice a week.
Nice.
And I'm going to put everything away.
Okay.
She's like, that's what I'm coming to do, so that you can know that everything is out of your sight. And honestly, the people that surrounded me when I was poorly were just amazing because they could see what I needed. And that was such... so mess.
No, none of it.
Not in my house.
Not in your life.
And I don't keep
in
stuff.
Some ways.
I'm not emotionally attached to things.
I know, you're so good. I'm literally an envy of, we talked about this and I just am going to lean on you for it. We'll have to maybe have some sort of process in place where I do the end of term or end of month spring cleans with you. You're just so good at out with the old, in with the new, cycling, recycling, getting things. Yeah,
because I always joke, and I met a girl last night who works in professional organising and decluttering, so I was literally in my element.
Right, I need to get her on. I'm thinking about people I want to speak to in the future, and
she would be great. She would be great because she's doing downsizing for older people.
Oh, nice.
When they're moving house.
So, because that's the thing is also, but memories, that I find that hard because I do like keeping stuff that reminds me of a certain era, of a certain moment. No, you don't have that.
I mean, I do.
Just
I have
minimal amounts.
And I have it. I sound crazy.
No,
I don't.
No craziness.
I sound like Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. Yeah. Everything has a place. So we have a memory box, and it's all put in folders for every year.
Okay.
So everything is just done in all in time. Or for the kids, I buy these big ring binder folders and I just stick things in. So their birthday cards get stuck in, certificates they get from school, they get stuck in. So rather than it being just this messy pile,
It's
actually
organised.
just there.
Yeah.
And you can, when they wanted to, they'll just be like, oh, I'm going to look at all my old artwork. And they get to look at it. And it's stored.
And also,
it feels
these things don't have to be expensive, because that's, again, I think people get a little bit lost with, oh no, but then I need all these things and I need to. You don't. You can get ring binders for £1 or a couple of quid, and actually, like, and you can also, if you like, you could. My daughter's very good at this. Actually, she uses what's around her, and she'll staple together bits of pieces of paper and then stick photos on them, and then she's making a little magazine. And actually, you can keep that item, and it's a way of organising the memories and the messiness that's on her desk.
And I think honouring those things is really important. Like, this is a matter, like, especially for us with our girls as they're growing up. Like, it's really important to have those memories. And there will come a time, and I'm really aware of this, like, they'll probably get to like 17 and they'll be like, Mum, get rid of that folder.
Yeah.
And I will have to be okay with that. And I probably at that point will find that really hard.
Yeah, that's when I'll stick it in a cupboard though, and then I've got a cupboard out there that's got all my old stuff. But my dad kept it too, so, and I'm grateful, because obviously, like, in memories when you have a lost person in your life, because I don't have my mum, so I think I have that extra capacity to want to hold on to the past, and all these photos and all these little things and bits of paper that I definitely don't need but feel meaningful. But I think, to, like, the point around all this is that there are ways that you can organize this stuff and it not be overwhelming, and it doesn't all have to be visible, and you can contain it.
Yeah, and I think it does feel really overwhelming. Like, where do you start? Where do you start with it? And like, I had found bags of like new baby cards that I'd put with all their old clothes, which my parents wanted me to clear out my old room. So I was like, well, I'll take all the, like, sort through the baby clothes, keep what I want for my sister, and then keep what I want to pass down to the girls. And then it's the cards, and it's like, well, what can I do? So I was like, right, I could spend, and I spend so much time watching box sets. Like, I can sit in front of a box set of an evening and glue these things, or stick them into a photo album.
Yeah.
And then that feels like a really special book then.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's about, starting small.
And then keeping consistency with it.
Consistency is key with organising. Like keeping on top of any mess. Yeah,
exactly. So what are your tips for some organisational things? Like, in life, you queen of a spreadsheet, or to do, like, how do you keep on top of what you've got to do in your forthcoming weeks, for example? How do you organise your life?
Well, I love a spreadsheet for work.
Yeah.
With a to-do list.
Yeah.
And then I'm just a real fan of a notepad and pen.
Nice.
I love the feeling of crossing things off.
Okay, so back to basics.
Really basic. Okay. Just cross it off the list.
In this world of all of the tech apps and the AI that can help us, it is nice to hear that. But you use AI tools as well. I know you do.
I do.
So is it a blend of both?
I do to jazz up an email or to make something feel more exciting. I definitely will rely on AI for that.
Yeah. Not necessarily to form order amongst all your...
No, but you know something, and I thought about this for you would be really good, is that if there's an email that needs an action in my personal email account, I don't read it.
Okay. Do you just delete it?
No, I keep it. Okay. And like, all the spam I delete. But anything that is like, oh, that is something I need to do, I don't read it.
Okay.
And then I block out time in my week where I sit down in front of my laptop and I'm like, right, the next hour is personal admin, and then each job gets done. So then again, it doesn't feel overwhelming, because you're not like, shit, I need to try and do that job. You've got specific time.
Batch it and allocate the time. It is. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? It sounds so simple.
But also, if you haven't been, it's like everything, right? Like, think about, like, if someone hasn't taught you, how do you know? You
completely.
Because all of this is natural to me, because that's what I grew up in, a house that's how you did things.
Exactly. But then we have to, I think, actually, we must train ourselves to do these things, and as adults know that we can still do it. Like, our brains are not at that point where they can't learn something new, and it's about getting these little habits in place and that's,
Yeah.
I want to be able to do that. But yeah, you're right. I didn't, and I love my dad is actually incredible, and he's achieved so much through his life, but managed things in quite a haphazard way. He always had like 5 different things on the go. He's super creative, was always designing things, was out there selling himself in realms that he wasn't even completely qualified to do, and then partnering with someone else to do something else.
Like someone else I know.
He'd have an idea, he'd follow it through, then he'd get a partnership with this other guy because he knew how to design. Dad knew about yachts. This guy he knows knew about design. They worked together. They sold themselves to people in Dubai to build and design yachts without a formal, company doing it. And he'd always make his way. Then he was doing roof boxes for cars. Then he was jazzing up somebody's home in, like, I don't know, meet some sheikh or some sultan who needs some woodwork doing and would be doing that there, would be selling windows for Anglian on the side to make sure he had a regular income. Like,
wow.
So, yes, but complete like disarray and cupboards and drawers full of receipts that
the absolute opposite.
Yeah, the opposite to you.
The absolute opposite.
And definitely what impacted me in my current incarnation. But yeah. And so how do you
also, I think the thing is, for me, overwhelm has always been like quite a like strong feeling in my body.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I was ill, I looked at all the things that would overwhelm me and think there has to be a solution. I can automate that. How do I automate these things that bother me? So it sounds it's really simple, but like toilet paper. It's like one of those things that if you run out, you fucked.
Yeah.
Who wants me doing a poo and then think, shit, have we got any tissues?
Yeah.
Oh God. So that would stress me out and make me feel overwhelmed. So I have tissue paper on an order.
Yeah.
So that I know it always
That's
comes.
a good, putting things on a subscription. Do you have Pritt Stick on subscription, Millie?
No.
Millie has like a drawer full of, I think there was about, I reckon 20 to 30 Pritt Sticks in it. I've never known anyone.
We like crafting. We like crafts.
But no, but it's like, that is such a simple solution, is to just have it there, ready, coming, being delivered. You're right. It's like
the other one which really helped me was that the milkman our milkman could deliver bread, eggs, bacon, sausages. So again, the thought of doing a full food shop when I was really struggling was like so overwhelming.
Yeah.
So instead it was like every week the milkman would deliver all of those things, and I would always know, well, whatever happens, I can feed us.
Yeah.
And I didn't leave the house, for weeks and weeks. So the thought of walking to the co-op to buy food was just too much. And that way it was like, I just knew then, whatever happens, if I don't leave the house for 6 days, everyone is okay.
Yeah. No, that's exactly.
Knowing the feelings that are the things that bother, or for me anyway, like, where are the things that bother me the most? And that feeling of overwhelm is the one where I'm like, and that comes back to things being messy. I have to have order. I need to know that, like, I don't have to worry about things, because as soon as I feel overwhelmed, everything is like...
Everything goes... Yeah, understandably, completely. Are there people in your sphere, in your life, and they could be... people that you know well, or they could be people that you have learnt from, anyone that you kind of look towards that's really helped you on your journey, either in like people that other people might want to look up, or books, or just like,
do you know,
guides, spirit guides, psychics? We don't have to go into the psychic realm, but is there...
I don't think I have read a single book about this.
That's good. But you know what? That also points back to, I remember talking to someone else about this. We have to look inside ourselves. Like, I love listening to podcasts. I love like assisting my own mind with other people's insights. But fundamentally, we've got to trust ourselves, right? And our own intuition, and not rely on external sources to solve our mess for
Yeah.
us, would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I never read. As Liv knows, I don't listen to podcasts. It's really weird that I'm on one.
I love it. You've got to, well, you'll listen back to this one, babes.
I don't think I can think of any resources that when I was going through anything that I just relied on or I looked at, and also I cut so much noise because, again, going back to my feeling of overwhelm, I had to cut the noise. I think for me, being part of or creating a motherly love community through lockdown, when we went into lockdown, I had just been discharged by the NHS. I'd been under their care for 2 years with an open door that I could be looked after for 3 because the bond with Winnie was a lot. There was a lot of work to recover from that and from my own depression. But when I created Motherly Love and we went into lockdown and we pivoted and we created a WhatsApp support group, it was those women, including you and other people I met, that really helped me, because naturally I had a huge relapse. My OCD got out of control. You couldn't leave the house. But that was so triggering for me because it was 2 years from the point that I physically couldn't leave the house because of my mind. Yeah. But then I couldn't leave the house. It was just the worst. It was the worst time for me for that to happen. For me, because it was the 2-year anniversary, and I had finally been discharged. I finally felt better. Life felt easier, and then boom, they're all anyway. But having connections with women, where you could talk on a really authentic way, express how you were feeling with no shame. And know that
real genuine spot. I know that's the value of that community, to just again highlight, like, that WhatsApp group. When I discovered it and when you welcomed me into it, sometimes just knowing that there was other people out there that were struggling with motherhood and some of the pressures, obviously, that they were even putting on themselves and the way that their minds were unfortunately unraveling in some ways, like, just the normalizing of that was incredible. Like, just the value that has, like, real genuine from people like in your local area that were experiencing something similar. It's like there's nothing that compares. No therapeutic help, actually, no online coach, no, just like real people. And that's what's amazing about Motherly Love, full stop. Like,
I think there is so much power by connecting with your peers in such an honest way. And that's not to say, it's not a golden ticket. You have to do all the other work outside of it. You have to, therapy and taking care of yourself and looking after your health and all of that. But there genuinely is nothing more impactful than hearing somebody say something that you have been feeling or thinking, and thinking you're the only person that feels it or thinks it, and there's something wrong with you because you feel it or think it, and someone say, this keeps happening to me. And 15 other women are like, me too, me too. And it just, you feel so much lighter, and it's so freeing, because that thought or that feeling or whatever it is no longer has any power over you, because you know that it's like, oh, bugger off. Like, literally, like, you're not real. Like, everyone else is feeling this too. So I'm not the only one.
And it takes a minute for sure. But the more, again, and that's how you train your brain in terms of how to deal with those thoughts. Like, you have to keep addressing it, and you've got to keep, you've got to keep going with it and keep that practice up of having the thought, acknowledging it, and then letting it pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
It's your tummy rumbling. It's mine.
My tummy is rumbling a bit. I'm quite hungry. I feel as if we're coming to quite a natural close of this conversation. It's been absolutely incredible. I'm going to ask you, as I ask all my guests, and knowing that you are a music fan,
this is too much pressure.
No, it's not. Just think about something. So music in itself has certainly, it's helped me get through messy times. And actually, but I know it's a difficult question because I have such a vast spectrum of different types of tracks that I listen to at different points to actually literally lift me through messy states. Or sometimes I want to actually incentivize myself to not to feel messy, but to shake it all through. And actually, you know, so sometimes it'll be really, really like fast, upbeat, uplifting music. Sometimes it'll be the complete reverse, calm, like therapeutic healing chanting. So there's like vast spectrum of what music, a track or two that either makes you think about mess or has helped you through a messy time.
I didn't listen to music for such a long time when I was ill.
Yes, me too.
I couldn't connect.
Oh my God, I couldn't listen to the words. I couldn't allow it in. You know, when you're talking about shutting off, like having to sort of make things more manageable. And yeah, for some reason, I actually, there was about almost a year, I think, where I couldn't listen to any music. And that was major for me, seeing as I worked in the music industry.
Yeah.
But then as I came out of that period, it was beautiful actually rediscovering tracks, and some was energy dance music, and then some was old 80s classics, and some was just back to my childhood and living the Oasis and Blur Dream. But then I started to make playlists again, and I was like, oh my God, okay, yes, I remember these. So a track that you've got a fond memory of, or is there anything that you can remember that...
Do you know this song that just keeps going around in my head because of what we're talking about? Is the Alanis Morissette song, I'm a bitch, I'm a mother, I'm a child.
That's not Alanis Morissette.
Who is it?
That's Meredith Brooks.
That's the song
that's
come in my head. Meredith Brooks has come in my head whilst we've been talking, because I just think like that thing of like, I'm all these different parts of myself.
Yeah, no, I love that.
So rather than what she's saying, it's like, I am a bit anxious. I'm a bit this. I'm really fun. I can be really outgoing, but I can also be really quiet. Like I'm all these different parts,
and embrace it all.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful mess. It is our beautiful, messy selves are made up of all these parts that make us human.
Yeah,
love that.
That song just has been playing in my head since we started.
That's the one then. That's what you need to say.
Yeah.
Oh.
But other than that, I just end up listening. Now with the kids, it's just like consistent kids, movies, soundtracks. Okay. But what's amazing, and this is amazing, but it's really cool, is that you listen to kids' films and they play such an eclectic, broad spectrum of music. So now the kids get to like... I don't know if you felt Guardians of the Galaxy, but they play Fleetwood Mac, and now Ada loves Fleetwood Mac, and like so we're the kids' movies actually enable like this really rich, diverse music taste.
They do
because actually they play old school stuff,
Fleetwood,
and new stuff, and
exactly that's how we educate our little ones. On that note, though, this is hopefully education for our young girls in the future. Also want this to speak to them one day. They can listen back, not yet, just consider themselves as being part of this movement that is open to talking about anything that we may encounter in our minds and not feel ashamed or scared or anything to talk about it. You are the epitome of sharing and thank you. I mean, we're both oversharers, like standard, it's fine. But no, Millie, thank you so much. Thank you for being so open. Continue on your amazing path to speak out and encourage people to speak out and to support women and birthing people in this manner. Motherly Love is an incredible organisation that I will share more details of in the notes. And thank you so much for joining me, my friend.
Thanks for having me and pushing me outside of my comfort zone.
Oh my God, and you'll have to listen to this podcast, I'm afraid. Bye, my love.
Thanks.
I am so grateful to you for tuning in and allowing some more mess to be uncovered with me. The Mess We're In is edited by David Strutt, music by Michelle Cade, who you can find on Spotify as Mind Like Water, and I am Liv Nunn. If you enjoyed this episode, it would make such a difference if you can hit follow or subscribe and share in any way. It really helps get this conversation flowing in a less messy manner. If you want to know how to connect with me, all the details are in the show notes. I'll be back very soon to spotlight and honour more of our messy selves. Be open, be kind, be messy.